morning, everybody. I've got my remote for my office lights. You can only really see, actually, you can't really see this other one, can you guys? Is that it? No, you can't. You can see the oh, well, yeah, it's now purple. It's red now. And now it's blue. Just to give you some insight into what's happening in the office. Hope you guys are great. Good fucking morning. Let's brighten that up a little bit here, shall we? All right, as we filter people in here, let's talk about some things that are on my mind over the last week regarding clients and regarding protocols. First thing is that DHT gel can act as estrogen control. Yes, I'm going to officially say that. The difference between that and an aromatase inhibitor, however, is that DHT gel basically blocks, kind of just sort of severs the impulse, the pulse, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it severs the fucking gene expression part of estrogen when it binds to the receptor. It just stops that from happening. And, you know, there's a bunch of literature on DHT, like preventing estradiol-induced prolactin release. So it's probably doing it through this mechanism. Now, how this relates to essentially acting as estrogen control on TRT is that with enough DHT, which in some case you get from your testos, but for some people you're probably just going to need to dose exogenous DHT, you can sever the pulse of estradiol at the receptor after it binds to it. It binds to it and basically does nothing, right? It really doesn't do a whole lot with the use of exogenous DHT. So what I found in using DHT gel, making my homemade one, and then again, I just got in the mail more 20% DHT gel. I was really excited to see that, is that I can induce estrogen control-like effects with just DHT gel. It's pretty profound. Yeah, and stronger so, I would say, compared to Proviron. You know, Proviron is an AI, though, mildly. So that shows you how strong the genetic expression blocking effects of pure DHT are. Now, you want to be careful with it, right? Because if you're sensitive to that lower estrogen state, or, you know, kind of just a lack of that estrogenic feel, which can be problematic if it's too much. If I take too much DHT and there's like maybe not enough test or not enough HCG or whatever, I can have lower E symptoms as well. So you have to find the right dose in the stuff. It's very, very powerful, boys. It is on the source list. It will come in 2 dropper bottles, 2 big fucking beautiful looking dropper vials with a bunch of pure DHT in it, boys. DHT is God's gift to man. Very fucking awesome. Let's talk about DHT plus Proviron plus HCG for sexual dysfunction. Yeah, I got a PFS guy, many actually, on this protocol. And we were going to add test into this initially, but the response with just DHT, Proviron, and HCG on like spontaneous erections and stuff was so profound that we're not touching it. We're not touching it. You know, why bring in test? The only reason we'll bring in test in this case is if the guy ends up getting low E2 symptoms, which can happen, and progress starts reverting. That means he needs a little more estrogen, in which case we could probably just bump up the HCG dose. But maybe we'll have to bring in test sometimes in these cases of PFS, PSSD, ashwagandha-induced fucking boner problems. You don't need test. Yeah. You need some testosterone and aromatization, and you can get it with HCG. You can get it with the right dose of HCG, but using DHT and using Proviron as well. Just something for folks to think about. It's been a real interesting observation. It's probably about a year ago where I saw this first work, and I was like, wait a minute, we're not needing test in this case. This is real interesting. And I've since repeated it several times. Cheers from Italy. Awesome, bro. What's the weather like in Italy? Are you eating pasta? Hello, Proviron God. How are you? Philip, what's going on? Disc Master, good morning. Source in the DHT. Yeah, that's in source list, everybody. DHT is in source list. And listen, even if you're dialed in and you just want to try it, it's good to have around. Aside from, you know, the estrogen blocking, the boner enhancement, all these really powerful things that come from DHT, it also gives you that masculine stoic state as a male. You know, you know, when I dose it, man, I go to the gym. Sure, I'll say hi to people, but I'm just fucking in my zone, man. I don't necessarily want to talk to people. I just want to lift. I just want to focus. When it comes to work, I just want to think and I want to get it done. DHT is very, very fucking powerful for that. It's also a nootropic. DHT acts as a powerful, powerful nootropic. Okay. I'm not saying that it's comparable to Torque, because Torque is its own thing. It's very much like all the benefits of Adderall without any of the side effects, essentially, is what Torque is. But it's its own antidepressant. DHT is so powerful, and it blows my mind, boys. Okay? Make sure I'm not muted here. Blows my mind. It blows my mind. That it is not mainstay from the pharmaceutical company's perspective here in the States. If they were able to prescribe DHT, it'd be I hate the word game changer. I really hate it, but it'd be a fucking game changer, boys. All right, let's get to some questions. Discmaster, are you suggesting Nandrolone solo going HCG alone? What was the protocol? Nandrolone? No. I wouldn't suggest people run Nandrolone solo ever. Yeah. Listen, Nandrolone can cause dick problems via a lot of different mechanisms. There's postulation that the reason that this happens is because there's no estradiol or little estradiol. I don't think that that's the whole picture. I think that part of the picture is that Nandrolone converts to dihydronandrolone, which could displace DHT at receptors, which you wouldn't want. You ultimately get a lack of actual dihydrotestosterone when you're dosing Nandrolone and no test. And well, then you're up the road of inducing a PFS type syndrome, called decadic. I mean, it's been in bodybuilding for fucking years, so these people know about this, and this does happen. At the very least, yes, HCG. But for me, considering, we have dihydronandrolone as a possible culprit, I've got one guy that had decadic from nandrolone and dosed DHT and it resolved it. Considering, though, that there are many more people out there that have this affliction related to the use of Deca, it is not something that and considering the literature on a clear causative factor here is not very clear, because I don't think it's really been extensively studied. Like, I don't think you could do, Deca-Dick studies and find something in PubMed, which is problematic. Whenever there's a no-go zone there in terms of definitive research, you want to tread very fucking lightly. That is seemingly a little conservative, but I think it's a good idea. You want to be conservative when it comes to this stuff. Now, with HCG, you might be okay. And no, I never suggested an Nandrolone solo and HCG protocol to anyone. DJ Millen. Hey, Ryan, why would nootropics suddenly stop working? Everything from racetams to teacrine, even after taking breaks from everything? Well, teacrine itself shouldn't. It's just like caffeine, but it's a better version of caffeine. Modifies the adenosine receptors differently. However, just like caffeine, just like alcohol, just like, maybe even B vitamins, right? The stimulatory effect that something produces might not continue. It might not continue. And that is because your brain, from this perspective of wanting to homeostatically be balanced, goes back to a place of trying to regulate and somewhat inhibit that extra stimulant response. The same is true if you take stimulants very consistently, Like, you wake up and you have an espresso every morning, and for a week, that fucking wakes you up. Then after a week, you're like, oh, it's not really doing it. You bump it up to 2 espressos in the morning, right? Then that starts doing it again. 2 weeks later, it's not doing it anymore. You still get some buzz, still some opening, but you notice it differently because you're already kind of more constantly in that state. So that's one reason. Relative to racetams, though, they force acetylcholine release from the brain. So there is definitely an inborn mechanism to stop that eventually when the brain feels like it's too much. And it's probably the upregulation of cholinesterase, which breaks acetylcholine down. So that's why you got to cycle those consistently, and you shouldn't rely on them. You start relying on nootropics too much, especially the racetams. There's some you can take every day, and they should be particularly effective. Like, if you just buy Torque, and if you want to take this like 4 or 5 times a week, it won't lose its potency because there's nootropics that are built for that. Racetams are not built for that. They're not for occasional use, but they're for somewhat consistent with breaks. Don't rely on them. Don't rely on. That's people's biggest mistake. Oh, I found something that works. I'm going to rely on this. It won't be the same way forever if you do that. Ryan Gooden, 20% DHT in the mail from Source List. Hey, buddy. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. Recommended starting dose, probably a whole milliliter, so a whole dropper on either of the forearms. I shaved my forearms for that. It just seems better. The source where that comes from suggests like the splitting it up between the navel, the forearms, and the shoulders, and maybe the inner thighs, even some of the scrotum possibly, or even the shaft. You're going to have to decide what works best for you. Either way, it's all going to go systemic with potentially more local effects at the peanut. If you rub it on the actual male organ, then you'll have some local effects, which is what you want. But generally, because there's blood vessels, it's going to go systemic either way. But I would say an entire milliliter, which is one drop per day, one full dropper per day. They come in droppers, big, beautiful dropper vial. So one full dropper rubbed into your skin, absorbing into your body. Do that per day and then monitor. Brother. All right. Farmer Rick, my new clinic is suggesting HCG after 2 years of tests. Is this a good idea or try something different? It will all depend on if you're dialed in where you are. Yeah. If specifically if libido, erection, sensation, ejaculative volume, these things are all good, I wouldn't fuck with it. Yep. I wouldn't do it. And if you're fine with the testicular shrinkage, now I take HCG because I don't like testicular shrinkage. I was just talking to my girl about that last night. She's like, why do you take that stuff? Well, with testosterone long enough, yeah, I mean, the brain part of specifically FSH is going to shut down. And then the testes, because they're not producing fertility and sperm biomarkers, they're going to shut down and start to atrophy. And some people are comfortable with that and fine, and others are not. For me personally, it starts to hurt a little bit. Testicles get small and it hurts. They start to ache. Now, possibly there's a period where if I let that go, it will stop aching. But also the sexual function takes a little bit of a hit for me if there's no HCG in the protocol. Things get a little weird, and I just don't like that. So I do believe that for me personally, and for many of my clients that I've worked with over the years, they need a degree of natural function, which only comes from HCG. It's really the best way we can do this. But for you, if you're good, don't change a thing. Because all it'll do, if you're good, is introduce probably some problems, and that'll be higher estrogen. The protocol will destabilize for a brief period until you can figure that out, which might mean you need estrogen control or might not, Dream big. Do you think Andrew Tate is on modafinil and HRT? Thanks, brother. The Tate brothers are almost definitely on HRT. Yep. Almost definitely. And if I were to give my assessment like a just definitive yes or no, I'd say yes. Yep. Tate brothers are on HRT. I don't think there's any question about that. Listen, I think they both have a little bit of the MPB gene. You can see when Andrew when they got out of jail and Andrew let his hair grow for a little bit, you can see bald spots, but he has the ability to grow hair, but you can just see bald spots. Now that's part genetic and potentially part HRT. The thing about it is they were in a Romanian prison for 6 months or however long, and they both came out not looking like they lost mass, So did they go through a process of going to hypogonadal and then coming back to somewhat normal test levels, and they had already built enough muscle mass, both of them, because they work out to the point where you couldn't really tell a difference? Who knows? But after about 2 months, the very lean looking, solid looking muscular Andrew Tate was there. And there's definitely a change in their physiques. But for sure, if you look at previous, when they were younger, previous videos of the Tate brothers, they look generally a little smaller and seemingly still masculine, but there's definitely something different now. I would definitely bet that the Tate brothers are on TRT, probably running intermittent steroid cycles, as well as the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is 100% on HRT. If you've seen his transformation over the years, he's now buff and in shape. He was a skinny little fucking dork before. And so, yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of people for whom you can tell that's the case. Zac Efron. Zac Efron, for a movie role, got pretty jacked. His chin is bigger. He has more of that manly chin thing. Definitely went on cycle, yeah. Some androgens and probably cycle. I don't like the shrinkage either, brother. Just ain't fun. Nothing good about that. I mean, I guess some people can tolerate it. Dave Lee, another TRT advocate, guy who talks about this on his channel, does consulting stuff. I've had him on the podcast twice. He doesn't use it, and recognizes some of the problems men do have with it and isn't a huge advocate for it. So there are people that don't. The guy from Balance My Hormones, Mike, also doesn't use HCG and is fine. Whereas I personally can't get away with not using HCG. Problems come about. Problems come afoot. MJ, 3 weeks ago, switched to every 5th day. From every day, 160 milligrams Cypionate a week, 40 milligrams Masteron. Oh my God, what a difference. They'll be doing EQ through the fucking roof all day. Pity I can't get DHT gel. Well, hey man, you're pretty close with Masteron. Masteron's very close to DHT because it inhibits aromatase, which is one thing DHT doesn't do, but it is it's an estrogen receptor blocker. Initially studied for breast cancer, by the way. So that's wonderful. What we're realizing is happening here is that you respond better in terms of the sexual system with boluses of stuff, which is not uncommon. This is why TRT has always been prescribed in less frequent injections. Now, this doesn't mean you can't make frequent injections on stuff work, but in your case here, the little bits at a time wasn't doing it. I have clients that are running 150 a week. They're doing daily sub-Q. They do daily 200 IU HCG. Takes them 6 weeks to balance, but they're fine. Dick is great. Libido's great. They feel good. They feel consistent energy. Whereas, you're needing whatever that ends up being, 120 every 5th day. I'm not sure if 160 is your total weekly dose or if 160 is your actual every 5th day dose and 40 Masteron. Fucking phenomenal. All we can say here is everybody look, see what happened here. Guy was doing every day, not so great. Switch to this. Fucking things are crazy and good. This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal, man. You found what works for you, and I can only do this. Good job, brother. Eric. Hey, Ryan, how much of a difference have you seen from E2 versus E2 sensitive? 75 on E2 and 35 on E2 sensitive. Yeah, don't get the fucking regular one, brother. It's massively, massively inaccurate. Candidate takes almost 3 weeks and 5x the price for the sensitive. Worth it 100%. Here in the States, it takes 10 days. That's still a fucking pain in the ass. I just got E2 sensitive after dropping back to 200 milligrams a week from running 300, which really wasn't doing shit for animalism for me personally. Didn't feel much different. And, after about a week and a half, I just wanted to get a baseline of estradiol. So I ran it. And that was literally 9 days ago. It still hasn't come back yet. So in the States, it takes a little bit of time as well. But it is worth it. Listen, if you're going to make decisions based on blood work, you can't get an accurate blood work. This is why I did that whole video on the immunoassay version of total testosterone. It's inaccurate, dude. I proved it. One of my I did 2 tests. I did the LCMS, which is the accurate version, and my total test was 1800. I did the same test in very close proximity, immunoassay. It was 1350. It was like a 600 nanograms per deciliter difference. I proved it. And we've all proven this before, though. Estradiol non-sensitive is not accurate. You don't want to use it. Wait for the other one, pay the price. Dream big, and I know that sucks, but it is what it is, brother. Dream big. Hold on, I lost my audio control, which is not good. I don't want to lose that. I'm getting nervous. All right. Do you recall Dave Asprey's modafinil dose? I'm pretty sure it was 200 milligrams per day. Yeah. He did CBS News or something. One of those fucking companies did a whole sort of expose on him. And it looked as if he was just taking an entire tablet of modafinil, which is 200. I personally can't take 200 milligrams modafinil. It makes me feel, I feel pretty good for the first hour. And then I just feel overstimmed and my brain just works too fucking quickly. Yeah, 50 to 75 milligrams modafinil. If I take it, I haven't taken modafinil in probably 2 months. I take it maybe twice a month if I really need that fucking extra. And that's usually when I'm creating courses or doing, stuff where I really need to think for a while. Or have the energy, crazy energy. But on my protocol as it is, just test and HCG and, intermittent use of DHT and a bunch of supplements, I feel great all the time. So I really don't need it at this point. Hey, Ryan, where can I get DHT gel? I'm in the UK. Pay attention to our channel and what I have said countless times. I'm not going to give you source over air. Ask again and you'll be banned. MPBT, dude. This guy on HCG right now to treat PFS. Okay. 250 IU every other day. Gonna butt some Proviron and DHT gel. Buy some Proviron and DHT gel. What should I watch out for them while dosing these, and how frequent should I use them? Well, I can't give you protocol over the air. So if you want to book a consult with me, then you can do that. You can even book just a TRT protocol redesign if you don't want to work with me ongoingly and spend the money for that. So I can't really give you an answer regarding that. I think HCG and Proviron plus DHT is a good strategy, and you'll have to find your doses of everything. I think 250 IU every other day might give you enough of the testosterone and estradiol that you'll need in this protocol. And, 15 or 12.5 to 25 milligrams a day of Proviron would be useful, and you'll have to find your dose of DHT gel for sure. My thoughts on GHK-Cu topical serum on scalp. Listen, copper is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. It is copper itself. So this doesn't necessarily extrapolate to this like definitively, but you want to be careful is what I would say. It is entirely possible that this compound will inhibit some degree of 5-alpha reductase. Now, whether that happens topically or otherwise is hard to say. It is almost definitely going to go systemic because things that go topically go systemic, like minoxidil, where I've got clients that have full-blown PFS from minoxidil. And, I don't want to say I despise, but it certainly bothers me that still people question that. They're like, minoxidil doesn't. Yeah, it fucking does. Yeah, it fucking does. Minoxidil causes PFS or can. We've got proof. People are like, are you sure? No, bro. I've only just been consulting PFS people for 7 years. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm fucking sure. I'm fucking sure, bro. GHK-Cu, iffy, brother. If you have any threat of that, or if that's a threat at all, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Never ran these, wouldn't run those. Poor choices, fellow vets. We're also Facebook friends. Awesome. What's your Army, Marine Corps, Air Force? What was your MOS? You want to type that in the thing? Been on 250 milligrams of Test E of Test P/E. So you got a blend of prop and enanthate, and you feel great. Awesome. Running out of pin spots, walking around like a big bruise. What was your best Test E protocol? So you've got a blend of prop and E. The best way to do this is, you're probably injecting pretty frequently if you're having this, or you're not injecting in the glute. If you inject in the glute with anything with prop, you'll have a lot less PIP. Also, over time, PIP just kind of gets better. It just gets better over time, usually. Regarding your second question, best Test E protocol for TRT, it'd be like 150 milligrams to 200 milligrams a week, split up into every 3.5 days or once a week or every 5th day. Any one of those would be sufficient. You've got to find what works for you. The closest frequency that I would suggest going would be every other day, which would be like 40 to 45 milligrams or every other day, something like this, 43 milligrams. Or, if you're one of those people that does respond to daily injections, because there are people that do, then you do like 22 milligrams every day. Sub-Q or shallow intramuscular, although I'm not a huge fan of either of those. They do work for some individuals. But between 120 and 200, basically. Because this opens up a can of worms. Are you one of those people that needs to dose between 100 and 120 so that estrogen doesn't go above range? Because any degree of estradiol above range numbs your dick or makes it harder for you to climax or makes you have erection problems. Some people are like that. And if you can't take higher doses and take NAI, because some people can't tolerate those either or find the right dose, then you might need to be at 120. So there's no best answer to that. It's about who you are and how you respond to things. Discmaster, FYI, website won't let me order anything. E is undefined. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Last I looked at orders, there was one at 12:30 in the morning, one at 5 in the morning, and two at between 6 and 8 a.m. this morning. So, if this continues happening, Ryan@livecortex.com. Just email me with a screenshot of exactly what's happening, preferably a video, so that I get actual context on how to fix this if it's really a problem. Billy No Face. Everybody, sit back, relax, strap in, pay attention, because Billy No Face is here. Billy doesn't have a face, apparently. Modafinil makes me feel like shit, even on a low dose, 50 milligrams, headaches, anxiety, and I feel an inability to focus. Kind of sucks. I had high hopes for modafinil. Yeah, everybody responds differently. You know, the thing about it's not the modafinil that's the problem in your case. It's your body like producing too much histamine, probably. Like this happens with modafinil, or it can. Or, there's a little bit of GABA inhibition too. So if you got some overage of some other neurotransmitter that's maybe problematic, like glutamate, then glutamate might be causing your inability to focus, because GABA can't stop glutamate from overfiring in the case of slight GABA inhibition, which is what modafinil is doing. So, switch to something else, man. Take some teacrine or some dynamine. Again, Torque plus an espresso shot plus a 7 milligram nicotine patch is like the best nootropic combination I've ever fucking had in 16 years of using nootropics. The best one. Torque, a shot of espresso, and a 7 milligram nicotine patch. You'll thank me later. Any tips for recovering from post-birth control syndrome? Symptoms seem to be the female version of PFS. Huh. Trey Manley. Weird. Well, I think that is probably because of constant influx of estradiol and progesterone, and then suddenly ripping that away. That could be what that is. The problem is hormone replacement is always the answer in all these cases. Yeah. Getting hormones at the high normal range would be my first answer to that, my first try. I have not worked with females on PFS, so that's about all I can give you. Firefox and Brave didn't work, but a clean Chrome worked. Yeah, so interesting. What is Shashandra used for again? Generally increasing dopamine and lowering prolactin, and I don't use it consistently. Every now and then I'll just dose a couple grams just for the fuck of it. It did in high doses lower my prolactin stepwise as I continued taking it. So it's pretty powerful stuff. Chufel Shunde. I inject 100 milligrams Test C and 50 milligrams Deca a day. Seems to work well. Yeah, see, here's a case where this guy can tolerate Deca, but you're using Test as well. So, hopefully that DHT from the Test is competing at the androgen receptor for the AR and not having dihydronandrolone fucking, compete over DHT. So you're not getting sexual dysfunction. At the same time, you have Test converting to estradiol, so you have enough estrogen. This works. If it keeps working, great. If at some point you start having dick problems, pull the plug. Per chat GPT, minoxidil is not anti-androgenic per unit. What is the mechanism by which minoxidil is Derek broke this down on his channel. It is the weight. It's somehow related to the molecular weight of it, in that it can go systemic. Right? There are certain, molecular properties that determine whether or not a compound will enter the bloodstream. And minoxidil enters the bloodstream and acts as an inhibitor of 5-alpha reductase. So while ChatGPT could say that it's not anti-androgenic, minoxidil or Rogaine blocks DHT. Okay, it inhibits, it inhibits the synthesis of DHT at tissues via modifying 5-alpha reductase, and it goes systemic. If I were to try to count over the years how many PFS people I have from just minoxidil, it'd probably be like 15 people over the years. Purely Rogaine gave them PFS. So I don't know what you're trying to say by this, but I'm telling you, it fucking causes it. So if you're curious about it, bro, why don't you just take a bunch of minoxidil, and when it breaks your fucking dick, you'll know you didn't know more than me. Chris, low dose Test sip 40 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with 20 milligrams Proviron on injection days solve my perpetually estrogen and PFS issues. Interesting. So 40 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday is great. That's 120 milligrams a week. I think that's beautiful. 20 milligrams Proviron on injection days. I think that's also beautiful. Solve perpetual estrogen issues, which, that happens with PFS. You over aromatize and under reduce to DHT. And that's fucking wonderful. That is wonderful. This is a matter of essentially targeting the same thing, having enough androgens, but having estradiol not be over your range, So in some cases, PFS is really not that difficult, but you need enough of the DHT like input, what you're getting with Misterolone, and you need some tests, and you need a little bit of estradiol, and you're good to go. I think this is wonderful. You have pretty steady state androgens too via that 40 milligrams basically every other day, and then you skip Saturday and Sunday. I think that's really good. That's a good protocol. And 120 lands you on a really good dose where, it'd be hard to over aromatize on that unless you had a lot of HCG in your regimen. So I think this is fucking awesome. Fucking awesome, bro. Poor Choices was Air Force, started as an MP equivalent, transition over to acquisitions. Cool. Yeah, did I have any MPs as friends? Well, I was I was stationed at Fort Hood, and then I went to Iraq. In Fort Hood, the MPs, well, they weren't our friends, right? Because if we were driving, having consumed alcohol, they pull your fucking, dude, you get DUIs from MPs, and then you're fucked. You lose your rank, and all manner of bad shit happens. So I don't think I was ever friends with any MPs, but when we went to Iraq, MPs were out doing missions with us, so, we got to respect them in that regard, that they weren't just like the overlords of the road where we had to watch out for if we were boozing, they actually were out there fucking grinding with us in sector. So pretty cool, bro. Pretty cool, brother. I'm sure, if you ever transition out, or if you're out at this point, you could have a job as a police officer forever or anything regarding law enforcement, which is cool. I considered law enforcement. I took a test and passed it and got offered a job at a prison. And I just turned it down and was like, no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'd already started, but I'd failed at a couple companies prior to that. So, but, in the back of my mind was always state trooper. I really was more interested in being like a homicide detective or detective at some capacity, like if you've ever seen the first, what's the Den of Thieves, the first Den of Thieves, where Gerard Butler is like a fucking gangster ass detective. That's what I wanted to be at some point. Orlando, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that, man. You didn't have to do that, but thank you, brother. Hope you're well. MP Dude, minoxidil definitely causes PFS, but altering sodium potassium channels and increasing prolactin. I have PFS and only came about a year after I started minoxidil. So yeah. Anything. This is the thing. When you increase prolactin, guess what you do? This is another thing people don't know about, PFS and prolactin specifically. Prolactin is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. Yeah. Yep. There's studies on this, man. They induced hyperprolactinemia in the subject. Elevated prolactin, 5-alpha reductase enzymes started being inhibited. Okay. It was only for a short time that they did this, because when they withdrew the thing that was causing them to have high prolactin, the 5-ARs went back to normal. But if you're doing that for a long time, it doesn't go back to normal, and you've got to work on it over time. So yeah, I know it causes it. It's been causing it for people for years. People that want to challenge that have to recognize, have you been studying this for almost a decade? If you haven't, and you haven't worked with people that have it from minoxidil, your chat GPTing and your research cannot compare to my experience or to that experience. You're in an uneducated place regarding this, and you want to hope that it doesn't cause PFS. So you're trying to validate via ChatGPT research or whatever, Reddit, that it doesn't. I already know it does. So I'm light years ahead over here, already knowing it does. Keep that in mind. Chris, was microdosing 2 milligrams Aromasin daily when dose was higher. Now I don't need Aromasin. Yeah, beautiful. That's what happens, I mean, the higher you go, the more AI you're going to have to take or whatever in order to keep your estrogen in that good range. Estradiol and the ratio scales up and things are okay to a certain extent, after which the wheels fall off the bus regardless. For me, that's like above 65 picograms per milliliter of estradiol. I could be at 4K total test, and 65 estradiol, and my dick won't work really well and shit. But if I get that down to 40, 35, then everything's good. Everything's good. Ryan Gooden, starting a BPC 157 and TB 500 cycle. Okay, good luck. Good luck, brother. That's pretty fucking optimization centric. 250 milligrams, micrograms twice daily. So of both, I see. Already big difference on the nagging knee tendon. Is that a good dose? Well, TB500 should be dosed like twice a week. You don't need to dose it daily. I think that's a relatively good. I mean, with TB500, I'd be dosing probably a milligram a week, split up into 500 microgram injections. But here's the thing, though. If you're seeing benefit, leave it just where it is. You found something that, for whatever reason is working well for you. I've run TB500 a lot, over the last year and a half. Fucking shit works wonders. Yeah. But it also has like pro-erectogenic properties. And I feel like I breathe better on it. I don't know what that's about. But, it does optimize the hell out of the thin lining of your blood vessels, making blood flow better. So it's a pretty powerful compound. I mean, the research on thymosin beta-4, which TB500 is derived from, is so very clear that it's beneficial to the point of reversing cardiac damage from heart attacks. Yep, really powerful stuff. What are my thoughts on a fourth of Aromasin every third day? Fourth of what full dose of Aromasin? Is that a 25 milligram tablet or a 12.5 milligram tablet? Sounds like a solid protocol. In conjunction with what? Can't really help you there. Venus Rose, good morning. Be in shape. Did your 3 clicks of cream last all day? Yes. I feel like I'm in a deficit by evening on 2 clicks of cream in the morning. I was on a deficit at 2 clicks in the morning too. I did try that. The only way I can make standalone 2 clicks work is with 25 milligrams Proviron a day. Yeah, I was doing 12 and a half in the morning and 12 and a half in the evening of Proviron, and then 2 clicks worked because I had enough androgens. Right. And the Proviron was freeing up more free tests, so my body didn't feel like it was in a deficit. But just 2 pumps of cream alone, and nope, I was tired by 1 p.m. Yeah. Because the day before, the 2 clicks didn't last and blah, blah, blah. 3 clicks is just enough for me. And I don't feel like I'm in a deficit. I feel great on 3 clicks. Yeah. That's what I was running up until a couple months ago when I switched to 300 milligrams to test for more anabolism. And I'm sure at some point I might go back to it, but I'm just trying to dial in at 200 right now. Doing fine. Big Hector with the $50 super chat. Brother, you didn't need to do that, man, but thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Any support goes a long fucking way on this channel. Long fucking way, Shit costs money, man. These Red Bulls, all right? They're like $250 each. Each time we buy Torque, it's $25,000 for a bunch of them. I appreciate this a lot, Hector. Good morning. 14 milligrams daily test prop, 250 IU HCG every other day. Got it. I think that's pretty good so far, but let's see what's going on. Test was 1,000. Great. Free test 262. That's pretty good. SHBG 19, estradiol 47. My energy isn't the best. Erection's not as strong. Bump test prop to 20 milligrams daily and added 10 milligrams primo daily. Okay, what's happening here? Is there anything else as a follow-up? I would be glad to answer that, what you're trying to figure out here if you have a follow-up on what happens there. I mean, you taking the test prop dose up to 20 from 14, well, the free is going to be 1,200, or the total is going to be 1,200. That estradiol is going to be 55 or 60. So be cautious there. The whole basis of the issue with erections on test is you need enough androgens, okay? But you can't have too much estradiol. So, it's a delicate balance because you've got to figure out what dose of test is enough for energy and anabolism. 14 milligrams for you isn't the best because it's troughing later in the day. That's what test prop does. Yeah, troughing later in the day. But for erections, you need like just less steady state estradiol. You don't want it constantly just aromatizing, which you find on long esters. Or you need it just to be slightly lower when it, a lower peak, which you could achieve with the use of an aromatase inhibitor, but, or 10 milligrams of Primo daily might do it. 10 milligrams of Primo daily might do it. Alternatively, 10 milligrams Masteron a day. 10 milligrams Masteron every third day. These things are powerful for reducing estradiol. They're very fucking powerful. So that might work for you. Ultimately, if you find that, you're one of those people that you can't dial in on the AI in this case, if you try to do that, because it looks like you need higher doses of testosterone for energy. 14 milligrams daily of prop is not enough for me, even though I might peak at 900 or 1,000, but I'm troughing. I'm then troughing. It's dropping back down. And I'm not getting as much or consistent androgen receptor activation, which is what causes all the energy benefits anyway. The cyclic adenosine monophosphate, the energy production, the dopamine synthesis, and more, right? So I need 45 milligrams a day minimally of prop if I'm running prop. That does take my estrogen a little bit over range, so I have to do stuff about that if I'm running prop. It's just the bottom line. So, go where your energy feels good on prop, where you physically feel good and have energy. And if erections aren't as strong, you just need to figure out how to lower estrogen. And if you can't do that, you've already tried lower doses of prop and that doesn't feel good for energy. You're probably going to have to be one of those guys that requires just a regular on the lower end dose of a long ester like cypionate or enanthate. In which case, more frequent injections would probably be better for you personally, so that the estradiol lands between 20 and 30 with just minimal HCG to keep the testicles functional. At the same time, stepping back a bit, you find your dose, which 20 milligrams might be it, on test prop for energy. And then you take that HCG to like 100 IU every day, or 100 IU or 125 IU every other day. You'll probably aromatize slightly less, and that might solve your problem. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it, brother. Belief is a powerful drug. Yeah. What's the fucking Rick James thing? Cocaine is a hell of a drug. But I'm sure Rick James said that, but all we can reference it out as is on the Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show. What are my thoughts about Masteron as an add-on? What would be a good dose? Anywhere between 10 and 100 milligrams a week. Some people are very sensitive to the lowering of estrogen that Masteron induces, so you've got to figure out if you're one of those people. It will sculpt your body relatively quickly, dude. Yep, you're gonna look Greek god style with that shit in your regimen. Trying to find one of my physiques. Yeah, here it is. This is the physique of 280 milligrams of test a week and 25 of Proviron a day. Right? These DHT derivatives do that to you. They sculpt your muscles to the point where they look bigger, harder, more defined. It's not a mass builder, I mean, it will help you build a little mass, but not compared to Primobolan or other very powerful anabolics like oxandrolone. But it will make you have that sort of physique where you just look fucking lean and shredded, and your muscles really, really pop out. After a pump at the gym, I look like that with slightly bigger shoulders now, because this was a while back. This is a year and a half ago. So I can look like that now, but I need a pump at the gym. Using DHT derivatives, you kind of always have a pump. So I think Masteron is an awesome add-on. Damn, my wife just raised my prolactin. That's funny. Are you wanting to breastfeed now? Do you want to breastfeed, brother? Dream big. Looking to roll in the Army at age 27, but I dropped out of high school and never got a GED. Do you think really into making sure the diplomas? You have to get a GED. Yep. Yeah. You can't. There's no faking a fucking diploma. Yeah. I joined the Army at 19, late 19, like just before turning 20, and I had to get a GED to do that because I was kicked out of high school. And then I got emancipated. And so my mom signed me out of school. And then I had to get a GED to get in the Army because I had no high school diploma. It is, back then it was required. These days, I don't know. Things are so fucking lenient. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, join the Army, brother. Join the Army. It will change your fucking life forever. We're not in war now, so you won't go to war. You know, if you do some specialty combat job, you might go to Afghanistan, or potentially some other countries, but you're not going to go deploy for a year like I did in a war zone, which maybe is better for your psyche. All depends, just the other day or something, I was talking to a buddy of mine and he's like, yeah, man, I always have respect. The same things people say about soldiers, the people that went over there, I maybe thought about doing it. I'm like, well, listen, maybe you could have handled it. Maybe you would have went to Iraq or Afghanistan and shit would have happened as it does. And it would have made you a better person, but you still have some PTSD left over and you just deal with it and you're fine. Or maybe it would be better for you to not carry that burden for the rest of your life. Maybe. All depends. But you got to get your GED, dude. Get a GED. If anything, just to fucking have it, whatever. You don't need to go to college. Depending on what you want to do, but get the GED. Yo, Meshi, where to buy androgen powder in India? Ask again in your band. Pay attention to the channel. Never ask for sources here. We have a product called Source List. I've been over this, but you want to pick and choose here. Best for penile fibrosis. Too general of a question. Super chat your situation if you want to get a more detailed answer. Steve Wonderful, can higher levels of estradiol be tolerable if you're using Masteron since it's supposed to inhibit estrogen receptors? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you'll find on specifically stuff that blocks the gene expression of estrogen is that you can have 60, 70 estradiol in the blood, but if it's not really doing anything and you're terminating the pulse at the genetic side after receptors are activated, then you really don't even really notice the estradiol, or the extra estradiol. It might feel fine. This happens to me with DHT. If my estrogen is 55, which is okay, it's okay for me. Erections, I can do it, but they're not like steel and like I like them to be. But if I take DHT with that, they come right back to steel and they're good, so that's because it's blocking the gene side of things while the numbers in the serum are still fine. You could have estradiol in the blood. It's in your blood. That 55 picograms per milliliter, right? Measured in picograms per milliliter. But it's what happens at the estrogen receptor alpha and estrogen receptor beta, and then the DNA transcription that really matters. That really matters after that. And you block that with Masteron or DHT itself, and you get a different effect. Tribulus with saw palmetto. No, do not use saw palmetto. Do not use saw palmetto. That will inhibit 5-alpha reductase. Not a good idea. The Phoenix is a cock rocket. Interesting. Yeah, I have the Phoenix. I've had it for 2 years. I've done an entire video on it a couple of years ago when I first used it. Yeah, it makes my erections harder. It does. I mean, you're breaking up potential fibrosis if it's there, which will only happen if you're not getting nocturnal erections consistently. And potentially as you age, just regardless. And you're inducing neovascularization. You're building new blood vessels in the junk. It's actually crazy. Like my dick looks more veiny when I use it. Yeah, it looks more fucking veiny. It's crazy. Which, holds more blood, makes just the stability of it. It's just more rigid. I just started using it again after not using it for a while. Because the changes in protocols, I've done 2 over the last 12 weeks, does tend to mess with libido and erections. So I just started using it again, and I fucking love it. I really don't care. My cat hates it because it sounds like a jackhammer. It's literally like, but I don't mind the sensation. It's not weird or anything. It doesn't hurt, and it only makes things better. only makes things better. Culver Prospecting. I'm going to tell you something right now, brother. Good morning. I'm expecting some nasty PIP off a high concentration test. Do you have any ideas to comment down? Warm the vial up. Warm the vial up in some warm water in a bowl or something before you inject, and then inject as slow as you can, and also inject in the glute. That's the answer there. I just saw recently a Hulk Hogan meme, and it was him as a girl, like AI made him a girl, and it was him going, "Let me tell you something, sister." Oh, I love it. I'm going to tell you something right now, brother. Ain't nothing better than people who say brother. Ain't nothing better, dude. You know, if I meet a new dude in my life and he fucking calls me brother, we're brothers. We're buddies then forever, dude. All my Army buddies, brother. You know, you got some people that don't be like, yeah, man, or dude. I'll say those things, but brother, we're all brothers, brother. What'd I get kicked out of high school for? Selling pot and living in a different district and going to a school outside of the district. Because where I lived was Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it was a very, very rough school. Very rough ghetto fucking school. I was like, you know, I was the minority in that. I was a minority in that school. And it was just fights every day, and fucking like I'd literally see people like getting taken away by police, like with a bloody nose because just got in a fucking fight. The cafeteria with like lunch, I'd be sitting there like just trying to eat my fucking lunch, and there'd be fights or people yelling, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this, dude? So I ended up going to a different school around, it was like 30 minutes away, and used my aunt's address who lived there, but really I lived with my mother at the time in Allentown, PA. So that's what they ultimately expelled me for. They suspended me for selling pot. They suspended me for 2 weeks for selling pot. Yep. I literally did that in high school, man. Me and this other kid did that. And we did well. But, you know, we got stupid about it, like you do, or like we did. And that was a problem. A guy I talked to recently is scared to cause Proviron or start Proviron because of hair loss. Has severe PFS. Okay. In this case, Proviron will absolutely, or can, let's say, you know, speed up hair loss or cause shedding. It does in me, and that when the dose is above 12.5 milligrams a day, it will do that. But this is one of those questions: your dick or your hair. That's just it. It really comes down to that. Now, Proviron isn't necessarily necessary for PFS, but I think it's useful. But, you know, DHT itself with some HCG would be the alternative, but DHT itself might cause some hair loss as well. So dick or hair. I mean, as a person with PFS, like you already had to make that decision once, and you made the wrong decision, which was hair. And then it caused you to lose your dick. So this should be a no-brainer. Jammer with the $5 super chat. Thanks, brethren. All your advice caused my wife to start smoking. So I slowed down and added some lube. What? All your advice caused my wife to start smoking. So I slowed down and added some lube. Brother, what the fuck are you talking about? Woo! Wife to start smoking. Oh, pot maybe? Oh, I don't know. I don't understand what we're talking about here, man, bro. I'm sorry if I'm missing something here, dude. I'm sorry, dude, but thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Dream big. Would I still be able to take master on the military base? This one is a weird one. I think that I don't know because I wasn't on androgens when I was in the Army. Although, I mean, there's a fucking E5 when I was an E3, 4 who was buff, and I'm pretty sure he's using some kind of androgens, and they do, like, you know, there's certain shit the military doesn't test for. You get random piss tests, you know, you get random fucking piss tests. But I think largely they're testing for pot, for coke, for amphetamines, for opiates, these sorts of things. I don't really think that they're necessarily testing for oxandrolone. I really don't think so. But, you know, HRT, like you would have to define through ChatGPT or the internet exactly what is involved in the Army if you're joining the Army piss tests. What exactly do they test? I bet that's out there. I bet that information is out there. Yeah. There are no supplements for penile fibrosis. You're thinking about this the wrong way. You need shockwave therapy. You need to be on androgens. You need to do Kegels. You need to use a penis pump. You need to do everything that a man with pretty good erections does to maintain good erections, but you need to ensure that you have nocturnal erections as well so that you can fix the problem. Shockwave will help because it breaks up fibrosis. The Phoenix would be a good option for that. And you've got to have high levels of androgens with the right amount of estradiol. And you probably need functional testicles, which HCG is the only thing that can really do that's a good option on androgens. Orlando, would cypionate injection 30 milligrams every day be a good idea? That's 210 a week. That's not super problematic. It depends on where you aromatize. On that with no HCG, I did exactly that protocol in the very beginning. I went to 1150 total tests and 35 estradiol. But, I don't drink a ton. I don't have much body fat, so I don't aromatize like a crazy person. Adding HCG took that up to 55 picograms per milliliter, which isn't the number for me. So I had to do something about that. At the time, it was 0.06 milligrams of anastrozole every 6th day or something. And that then everything worked and I was good. I hovered around 30, 35. So you're going to have to see. But me being kind of not an under aromatizer, but like I'm pretty good with aromatization. Like I don't aromatize a ton. With HCG at that dose was too much estradiol. So, that's, I think, where you're going to be. If your current labs are test 809, with this, and E218 using T cream, I would stay right there. Unless you're having problems. Estradiol at 18.9 without an aromatase inhibitor, like not manufacturing that superficially, I'd be great. Well, maybe a little sore joints, 25 is kind of a great place for me. 27, 30, that's kind of a good place for me in this case. But, if you need slightly higher estrogen, just take a little bit of HCG. Yep. Those aren't bad numbers though, bro. They're not bad numbers. I think he's saying rubbing wood together to make a fire. Yeah, brother. Rub that wood together. Like they do on, the survival shows. Like one of my favorite ones was the one with Cody. You guys remember Cody and the other guy who was an Army vet? Yeah, that was like the first one I watched. And I was like, man, this shit's fucking cool. I like Cody. He's barefoot all the time. He's like a little emotional, Cody. He's like deeply connected. He's a little feminine. That's the only thing that was a little weird about Cody, but he was a good guy though. It was weird because he's a big guy. He's like gigantic teddy bear, Cody. Remember that show? It was one of the first like really good Survivor shows. Yep. And then there was like fucking 1,000 of them that came out. Some were good, some were bad. Yeah. I used to watch those. I if I could find a good one and had the time, I'm usually thinking about other shit like business and clients and stuff, research, then I would watch them. But injectable DHA with tests makes me feel good. I'm a low aromatizer. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for you, brother. That makes sense. Because DHEA will increase the estradiol. She was smoking from the friction. I get it. I love that. All your advice calls my wife to start smoking from the friction, from the sex. Got it now, brother. I slowed down and added some lube. Sometimes you need the lube, dude. Sometimes you need the lube, brother. Ain't nothing wrong with it. That's what it's for. Especially if you want to put it in places you don't normally put it. Then you need lube. But thank you for sharing that, brother. That's the whole point, look, I want to help people feel good on androgens and stuff, but I also really want guys to have good sexual function. I know what it's like when that shit doesn't work, man. My early 30s were I was afflicted with that, and it's not good. I've been consulting people's sexual dysfunction for years, and, some of these guys are crying on Skypes with me, and it's fucked up. It's fucked up. So I like also helping people to cause friction where they need lube. And the woman is smoking, brother. My girl smokes. She's smoking, but she's smoking hot. All right, Master RC student, $10 super chat. Can soaps or body wash affect the junk and test? No. No, not unless they have DHT inhibition properties to them. Like, I don't know if tea tree oil has this, but it's possible. Argan oil does via oleic acid inhibit 5-alpha reductase. So you want to be careful about that. So the answer is, I guess, yes. But I think it's only things that inhibit 5-alpha reductase. And there are, ingredients in these things that can do that. Like argan oil will do that. Otherwise, though, I don't really think it's something that you have to worry about. You should always be mindful of what's in there. You know what I mean? If it's some new shampoo or some shit, you know what I mean? Make sure but argan oil usually is defined that way on the bottle. That is one of those things that can inhibit 5-alpha reductase. I don't think you want that. Argan is used for hair growth. So, put the two and two together. I use L-arginine and citrulline and vitamin E for fibrosis. They do help. Yeah, they will. I mean, all it's doing is making more building block for nitric oxide synthesis from nitric oxide synthase, which converts your arginine citrulline into nitric oxide. So that is good. Dream big. Yeah, brother. Just found out the military only tests for recreational drugs. Too expensive to do steroid tests. So I basically just have to smuggle my gear on base. Well, essentially. I mean, you got to be real careful about that. You're the gate guards, like the gate people, are usually not military people. They're private citizens, book contractors or something for the military. It's just a company, that whatever base hires to do it. They usually just check your ID. If they don't have and if you're a soldier, they're just, you roll up, you give them your ID and they go. That's it. All it ever is coming in and out of the gate is your ID and go. They're not going to search your car unless they have suspicion. That's the truth. But I can't give you specific advice on this, brother. That's what I'll say. I will, though. I feel like I lost my chat. Oh, no, here we go. Yeah, I did. All right, hold on one sec. Brothers. I've got to reconstitute my chat. Brothers. Hope you guys are good. Any other questions for those of you that just jumped in, that are here? Anything burning on your mind? Ask a brother. Ask a brother. Ask a brother. Orlando Jr. with Cypionate injection 30 mil. Oh, okay. We already been here. Got it. Here we are. Losing my brain. MPD dude. TB 500 for fibrosis and or substitute for Cialis. I think both would be useful. Cialis tends to cause a horrible headache. That will go away with time. You just have to keep dosing it. Yeah. Cialis can cause all manner of fucked up side effects initially. I feel like I'm a little far away from you guys, man. I want to be close to you, brothers. I want to be close. I want to be close to you guys. How's that? You guys feel that you're uncomfortable with closeness? Where are we here? The extent to which TB 500 can heal fibrosis is unclear in the literature. It's just not there. But looking at what it does, meaning optimizing blood vessel function and repairing tissue, it should. Now, there's been a little bit of discussion about this on the web, the forums, about injecting these reparative peptides into the penis for this. I've not tried it. I don't have any people that have tried it, but some people have, and they have had good results. There's one anecdotal of an older man who injects in the base of the penis at the 1 o'clock BPC 157 before dates. And he's got like erection function like, young people do. It makes sense, dude. It makes sense. I don't think injecting a reparative peptide into the cavernosal tissue would be harmful. I don't see how it could. It could, but I don't see a mechanism by which that can happen. So, who knows? It's not a substitute for Cialis necessarily, right? I think it will over time help erection function. You need to decide though, like if you want to get the best bang for your buck, my sense is that you'd probably have to inject it intracavernosally. Insulin syringe, you find the corpus cavernosa, you shoot at the 1 o'clock basically. You go all the way in with the 1/2-inch needle, not any shallower. You got to go all the way in and see what happens. but dose very low in case there are side effects or something bad happens, then you can back off. But, you can ask ChatGPT this and it'd be like, yeah, nothing will probably happen, and it might be beneficial. OM time. I took Mucuna and surprisingly increased my testes as well. Yep, that's just via dopamine, adding some dopamine and then inhibiting prolactin, which will help synthesis of luteinizing hormone. That's what happens there, and FSH. Do I think dihexapurolate 53 CMAX like NSI? Well, that's a lot of drugs here are good for learning things like Japanese one at a time. PRL alone, great for this. Dihexa alone, pretty good for this. Cerebrolysin alone, really good for this. Nupept alone at the right dose, really good for this. God, what's the other one? I haven't taken that or talked about it in such a long time. I forget. There's another really, really good, nootropic for this. It's not dihexa. I forget what it's called, but there are others that are good for this. Racetams, aniracetam or oxiracetam, phenomenal for learning new things. Learning to play guitar, learning a new language, all that stuff. Dreambig says nothing helped my hair quality and growth more than proper thyroid function, including T3 therapy and HGH. Thyroid hormones, bro. I mean, they really make a difference, dude. My body is warm all the time when it used to be cold at certain points, since I take desiccated bovine thyroid every day. Yeah, I take a cow's thyroid tissue from New Zealand every day. And I'm warm. My body's warm all the time, even when it's cold. And some people aren't like that, and I wasn't always like that. Now, did I have in-range thyroid numbers? Yeah. But I needed more. That's the whole thing. Some people just need more of certain hormones. What do I think about Brian Johnson? Well, first of all, I think he looks sick. Yeah, I think he looks very sickly. I mean, look at me. I'm not like as biohacky as he is. He just really is commercializing biohacking, and he's obviously selling stuff, which everybody is. That's fine. But like, look at my complexion, and look at my shape, and look at Brian Johnson. I mean, the guy looks a little pale, if you ask me, and he looks a little fucking weird. If you ask me, I think he looks a little fucking weird, dude. He looks super pale and kind of skinny. I think he's lean. He has some muscle mass, but it's not substantial. I don't think that he looks particularly healthy, if I'm being honest, and it doesn't seem as if he's like reverse aging or anything. I'm not getting that from looking at Brian Johnson. But, never know, bro. Never know. He's obviously doing good on the money side of what he's doing. Or maybe I think he did some other shit prior and made him rich, so he's doing well there. But I don't follow him. I don't if his new Brian Johnson video comes out with some information, I'm not like, oh, I need to see that. I already know what it is. I already know it already. Probably. I feel a Cortex Labs HRT clinic coming. 100%. 100%. Yeah, we'll have a clinic in the States. Yeah. Doing the preliminary stuff, but it'll be a process of involving docs, obviously, a set of doctors where we can get licenses for every state in the States will be the goal. It'll start in Pittsburgh locally. But right away be doing national HRT. I will do some of the consults, or my process will heavily influence the doctor's consults. Yep. And the prescribing. We will get as many compounds as we can. If we have to push hard to get Primo and have that be legal for us to prescribe, we will do that. There are some pharmacies that are pushing for that now, or trying to do that. We will be, as lenient as possible, as open as possible, as importantly though, most clinics don't really give a fuck about dialing you in, and the degree to which they have adjustment suggestions are, maybe continuously vast, but the basis of knowledge in the consultants you'll be dealing with is limited. It's limited. They have a checklist, that's like, if this is happening, maybe take an AI. If this is whereas, I'll infuse into people, does this person need to upregulate 5-alpha reductase? And can we do that with the use of what can we do that with what we have? Etc. So we'll be a lot deeper into trying to get to the resolution of people's problems, because it's not just as simple as TRT for some people. Dialing in is a dance. Different people require different things, and I think the only hard part will be if we can't prescribe Masteron and Primo, which we can't, or at least Masteron, Proviron itself. I'm just going to have to continue talking about it on YouTube separately from that entity, and let people do their own thing. At that point, I'm unsure legality of even having the source list around. So, we would have to withdraw it at that point. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But it's definitely fucking happening, brother. Yep. We're starting a clinic. It's going to take a lot of time, though. So stay tuned. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I'm going to end the stream. I got some stuff I got to attend to. I'm going to see if I can get to the gym in a bit here. I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Yeah, I hope you guys are ready for the spring. I hope you're happy. I hope you're content. I hope you're working on yourself. I hope if you need to go to therapy, you go to therapy. I hope that your protocols are good. I hope that you're working on dialing them in. I hope you're not too frustrated. Sometimes it can frustrate you. Keep going. Keep reading. Keep watching. Keep learning. Keep trying. Keep taking notes. Hope you guys are always progressing and moving forward in life, man. That's how you feel good as a man. Progress makes you feel good. Action makes you feel good. Hope you always have goals that you set that you try to fucking reach. When life gets hard, I hope you realize life is hard. Life is hard. It's fucking hard. It's not easy. That's what our jobs are as men, not to stand around happy all day, but to get shit done and to endure through hardship when things are fucking hard. Sorry to give you the Tony Robbins talk, but I'm into personal development as well, bro. Thanks for your questions. Love you guys. Fucking 20% off pretty much everything for another day. The code is down in the description of this video. I think it's only listed as 20% for Torque, but it also applies to coaching and source list. That ends in like 2 days because April's our busiest month for coaching. Okay. For those of you that are thinking about getting on board for 3 months or 6 months, you have to get on board ASAP. I'll be booked in April. There's no question. It's already starting. So please pay attention to that. Book me as soon as you can so that there's no wait time. All right. Kick ass, rock on. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.